Soham?
Oh. My apologies. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the XYZ News. I'm your host, Soham Sen, and along with me is my colleague, John Desierto.
Salutations indeed, Soham. And may I say, it has never felt better to be an American than right now.
You said it, John. As you all may know, America has recently established the Pony Express. This was one of the most prevalent and of all the new innovations and inventions during the transportation revolution.
Let's first backtrack and take a look at America before the transportation revolution. America's roads were mostly unpaved and filled with potholes, which made travel on them very rough. Passengers were occasionally forced to get out of their carriage and lay wood down over the uneven and muddy roads so they could get across. Sometimes horses and even carriages were consumed into the mud pits. These roadway conditions discouraged interstate trade and made areas very isolated and independent from each other.
But surely the conditions on the waterways were much better, though.
Not really. Trade through the nation's waterways, whether it was inland or the open ocean, was slow, unpredictable, challenging, and dangerous. The rough ocean would often sink and slow trade. Trade along rivers was not as dangerous, but still very slow.
We can all agree, though, that the beginning of the transportation revolution was marked by the construction of the Lancaster Turnpike in the 1790s.
Well said, Soham. The Lancaster Turnpike was a promising step towards future developments. It was a broad, hard-surface highway that thrust 62 miles westward from Philadelphia to Lancaster. As drivers approached the toll gate, they were confronted with a barrier of sharp spikes, which were turned aside when they paid for their toll. This was known as a turnpike. This was a highly successful venture for the U.S., and it had a returning rate as high as 15% annual dividends to its stockholders. It attracted a rich trade to Philadelphia and touched off a turnpike building boom that lasted about 20 years. It stimulated western development, and the turnpikes back into the canvas-covered Conestoga wagons, whose creakings heralded a westward advance that would know no real retreat.
Not long after, road buildings boomed in the early 1800s.
Yep, you said it. Western road building, always expensive, encountered many obstacles. One pesky roadblock was the noisy states' writers, who opposed federal aid to local projects. Eastern states also protested about being bled of their populations by the westward reaching arteries.
Despite these setbacks, the Westerners scored a notable triumph in 1811 when the federal government started the construction on the National Road.
The National Road was also known as the Cumberland Road, in honor of its starting point in Cumberland, Maryland. The construction of the road was interrupted by the War of 1812, and by statist writers' complaints about federal grants for internal improvements, but the road eventually reached Vandalia, Illinois in 1839.
This road stretched an astonishing 591 miles to the west, John. This was an amazing feat for the Americans to reach. Not to mention that the road was extended and now went from Baltimore to the banks of the Mississippi River in St. Louis. Wow, indeed.
Also created were railroads that stretched across the nation. These railroads were fast, reliable, cheaper than canals to construct, and were able to be used in winter. Trains were able to go pretty much anywhere and weren't as limited to terrain as boats. They could also function in any type of weather. The first railroad in America was created in 1828, and before the Civil War, America had almost 30,000 miles of railroad.
That most certainly is incredible.
Indeed, Soham. However, the idea of an expansive rail system was not well liked. Canal makers did not like the idea of trains, as they feared it would deem canals unnecessary. In 1833, freight was prohibited from being carried on railroads, and railroads were also caused fires and massive accidents. Brakes were very poor and made stopping difficult, and different size rails made hassle-free travel non-existent.
So how did the railroad survive?
Well, Soham, the freight ban was repealed, rail size gradually became standardized, better brakes were created, and safety devices were adopted. And the Pullman sleeping palace was introduced in 1859. America, at long last, was being bound together with an intercontinental transport system.
A special individual I would like to give a huge shout out to is Robert Fulton. Fulton is credited with developing the first successful commercial steamboat in the early 1800s.
How did he come up with such a smart idea?
Well, John, he simply installed a powerful steam engine in a vessel which he called the Clermont. This little ship moved steadily from New York City all the way up to the Hudson River towards Albany. It traveled 150 miles in 32 hours. By 1860, there were about 1,000 steamboats, population clustered along the banks of the broad-flowing streams. Corn growers and other farmers made haste to take up and turn over the new profitable soil. Not only could they float their produce out to the market, but, hardly less important, they could ship in at a low cost of their shoes, hardware, and other manufactured necessities.
That's incredible, Soham.
Yes, indeed, the development of the steamboat is a major success as it allowed people to defy wind, wave, tide, and downstream current.
Another significant individual that we should all take time to appreciate is DeWitt Clinton. Clinton strongly advocated building a canal through upstate New York to connect the East with the Midwest. Being the mayor of New York City, he believed that the construction of the canal was crucial to the advancement of his colony. He wanted New York City to be perceived as advanced and cosmopolitan as Boston and Philadelphia.
And how did he do that?
Clinton began a canal fund to raise money for the construction of the Erie Canal. His use of nationalism and republicanism in a popularly supported letter to the legislative branch demanded that a canal be built. This letter would receive over 100,000 signatures. Momentum for this project would soon increase as engineers were being trained in Holland and England, proving the opposition's side of the construction of the canal wrong. A canal bill was passed by April 1817, guaranteeing funds for the completion of the project, and on July 4th, construction began simultaneously to the east and west. The cost of shipping a ton of grain from Buffalo to New York City fell from $100 to $5, and the time of transit went from about 20 days to 6. Other profound economic and political changes followed the canal's completion. The prices of potatoes in New York City was cut in half, and many dispirited New England farmers, no longer able to face the ruinous competition, abandoned their rocky holdings and went elsewhere. Some became mill hands, thus speeding the industrialization of America.
Thanks to Fulton, the shipping of goods between upstate New York and New York City is now less time-consuming. Also, the Erie Canal helps in the spreading of people, ideas, and goods, as people can now move from east to the Midwest via boat and this canal. America is going from a collection of people to a cohesive continent with economic unity, building a sense of American nationalism.
Fulton and Clinton, if you guys are watching this, you're legends. The first railroad appeared in the U.S. in 1828. Fast, reliable, cheaper than canals to construct, and not frozen over in water. It defied terrain and weather and was able to go almost anywhere, even the Allegheny Barrier. In 1840, there were 7 transfers between Philadelphia and Charleston, but gauges gradually became standardized. Better brakes did brake, safety devices were adopted, and the Pullman sweeping palace was introduced in 1859. America, at long last, was being bound together with braces of iron, later to be made of steel.
John, this momentous occasion in the transportation history of America reminds me of the Anglo-American-Canadian venture to stretch a cable under the deep North Atlantic waters from Newfoundland to Ireland. Although this initial cable went dead after 3 weeks of public rejoicing, a heavier cable laid in 1866 permanently linked the American and European continents. The United States Merchant Marine encountered rough sailing during much of the early 19th century. American vessels had been repeatedly laid up by the embargo, the War of 1812, and the panics of 1819 and 37. American naval designers made few contributions to maritime progress. A pioneer American steamer, the Savannah, crept across the Atlantic in 1819, but it used sail most of the time and was pursued for a day by a British captain who thought it was a fire. In the 1840s and 50s, a golden age dawned for American shipping. Yankee naval yards, notably Donald Mackay's at Boston, began to send down the ways sleek new craft called the clipper ships. Long, narrow, and majestic, they glided across the sea under towering masts and clouds of canvas. In a fair breeze, they could outrun any steamer. State clippers sacrificed cargo space for speed. They imported extensive cargo fast for money. They wrestled much of the tea-carrying trade between the Far East and Britain from their slower-sailing British competitors, and they spent thousands of impatient adventurers to the god fields of California and Australia.
These key developments bring us to the most recent one. The key development revolutionized the postal system of the U.S. It is known as the Pony Express.
On the scene now is our on-field reporter Alyaan Hussain to bring us the latest update. Alyaan?
Hey, thanks guys. Before we meet this brave frontier horse rider, let's talk a little bit about the Pony Express. It was established in 1860 to carry mail speedily for 2,000 lonely miles, from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California. Daring lightweight riders leaping onto weary ponies saddled at stations approximately 10 miles apart, and they could make this trip in an amazing 10 days. These unarmed horsemen galloped on in summer or winter, day or night, through dust or snow, past Indians and bandits. I'm here in St. Joseph, Missouri, the start of the Pony Express, with one of the riders of the Pony Express. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Me, your name is Jason Jackson the 12th. I come from a long line of frontier horse riders, and riding ponies for a living seemed like a dream come true.
I have to ask you, how does it feel to be a frontier horse rider for the Pony Express?
It's really exhilarating. Riding along the land with wind whipping in my face is an unexplainable experience. I love my job, but it's kind of sad to leave my family alone for so long.
And another thing, how dangerous is this job for you since you are unarmed and all? Have you ever gotten into a confrontation or were in serious danger?
I mean, there's always a sense of danger, but my defense is speed. As long as I keep on the move, I have never had any serious confrontations. I have met with some Indians, but none of them have caused any harm.
Do you think the Pony Express is a revolution for the Americans?
I do believe that the Pony Express is a revolution, and now news can get from one side of the nation to the other. It's a massive step forward in communication.
How long do you think the Pony Express will last?
I believe that the Pony Express will last for a little bit, but with the current burst of technology, I don't believe the Pony Express will last forever.
All right, Jason, thank you for this interview. Now let's get back to the studio.
Thank you for that report, Alyaan, and may I say, you have gotten really handsome lately.
John, I must say that these developments in the transportation of our nation marks a new era in our history. Furthermore, the West and South will be united like never before, trade will be at an all-time high, and each region of the country will be involved in their own diverse economic contribution to aid in the nation's overall strength as a world superpower. Thank you for tuning in, folks, and from all of us here at XYZ News,
We will XYZ you later.